Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Town of Rome Board Budget Meeting to order for Thursday, October 20th, 2022 at 3 p.m. Number 2, roll call starting from the left.
Giamatti here.
Minter here.
Asdell here. We're waiting on Mr. Goman, and Mr. Barhart is excused. Number 3, certified posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Friday, October 14th, 2022, the agenda for the Town of Rome budget meeting for Thursday, October 20th, 2022 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:46 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:50 p.m., at Quick Trip LLC at 3:56 p.m., and at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:07 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda, but request that we take the meeting minutes separately, as I have some corrections to the October 4th.
A second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 5, citizen comments. None presented?
None.
Passing 5. Discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 6, discussion and action approval of the September. We're going to hold on this, or do you want it separate
Separate, please.
later on after we do the other ones? Was it?
I just asked that we do September 28th first and then do October 4th,
Okay.
because those I had.
Not a problem. Number 6, discussion and action approval of the September 28th, 2022 minutes.
Motion.
Move to, go.
Go ahead.
Right. Move to approve the September 28th, 2022 minutes as presented.
Approve. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Or do you want
Aye.
I'm sorry, do you want discussion on this? Okay, alrighty. Motion approved. Discussion and possible action approval of the October 4th, 2022 budget meeting minutes.
Move to approve with changes to the following requested. On page 2, under fire, it says consensus was to approve a F-250 for replacement of Command 1. I was not in agreement with that, so I don't know that, again, consensus would be the correct word. And as far as fire department budget was finalized, were we all in agreement that we were going to be purchasing a new fire truck next year for $800,000, or was there going to be further discussion? I needed clarity on that one.
There will be further discussion on that item. That's not a part of this budget.
Okay, great. And then I just would ask that consensus be corrected in that I was not in agreement on an F-250. My next request for a change was under general at the bottom of page 2 on those minutes. Administrator Gabert felt that it would be a legislative effort. Supervisor Giamatti does not feel that it would be under the budget item. Actually, both myself and Supervisor Minter agreed that that was not an appropriate place for the survey, and that we ask that another area would be considered, such as other general government, for the survey. And the chairman also did not necessarily agree and asked that we move on and maybe consider having discussion at a later meeting for where that survey should be placed in the budget. Another item under that one,
Can I ask, how do you want it changed?
that
How
Super-
should it be worded?
Supervisor Giamatti and Supervisor Minter, we both agreed that the legislative account was not the correct place for the survey to be placed. We both felt that other general government would be the proper place for that item. And then under an estimate, I don't know how important this would be, but under an estimate for this new sound system in the community room was done. We also discussed that lights should be added to that budget. At that point, we talked about lights should be considered at the same time, as long as that whole room was being done. So that we shouldn't lose sight of that. And then there was some discussion on, I brought up the flooring as far as concerns with the special additional work being done as far as cutting and putting in the flooring. And then you had brought up that it was better than the taping, but I don't think that's important to add, but just, we shouldn't lose sight of the lights that we had talked about because of everything else going on in that room. And those were the only changes that I would request on those meeting minutes. Thank you.
Can we get a second?
Second, the amended minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 7, discussion and action, review 2023 Town of Rome budget questions.
Don't have any specific questions for today, so we can go right into specific budgets to be reviewed.
All right,
Can
specific,
we-
oh, go ahead.
Are we allowed to raise any questions that we might have had previously, from previous?
Would that be under general? That'd be under general, wouldn't it?
You could, it could just happen under budget questions, that would be fine.
Sure.
Okay, you had brought up at the last meeting, about the MFL and the plow truck. And you were going to bring back, what you were gonna be using. The plow truck, I believe, was 120, there was 160 in MFL, and you were gonna be using only so much for the plow truck, and then you were going to be bringing back your thoughts on how you wanted to spend the rest. How were you going to be spending the rest?
So I didn't believe that we were gonna spend the rest. The
Oh,
rest
you-
has been put into our Ellers account as an investment. So I don't know that there was a need to spend the rest on something at this moment in time.
Oh, I didn't either. I thought you had said that you had some ideas on where, so then why wouldn't we just pay for the whole entire truck?
We are with the MFL funds.
That's not what it says in the minutes.
So the first time we reviewed highway, we said we would take a portion, but when it was discussed that we wanted to have more for the road budget, then we increased that road budget maintenance, and all of the 140,135 for the truck will come out of MFL. We'll pay for the truck with MFL funds.
Okay,
But the funds that we receive from MFL they're invested with Ellers, and will stay invested in short-term investments until we would need to pay for that vehicle.
okay. Do you have all of that, Amy? That you can record that for us, please? Thank you. That's the only question I had on that one. And then as far as wages, we had put 4% in as a placeholder for wages, but I don't recall us ever really having a final discussion on that being our final decision. So will we be discussing that matter further today? Because I know that did change some of our budgets now, looking at some of these, so,
That's a conversation for the board. Again, the budget is presented as 4%. At this moment, we would go forward on the presentation night with the 4% in the budget. Not all budgets, again, the ones that we've noted, library, you'll hear, water utility today, some of those have higher than 4% if market adjustments were completed.
thank you.
Is there further discussion from the board? I guess I don't wanna go into the night on the 17th if we're not in agreement with that. That's an item that affects all budgets.
I'm good with the 4%. Dan? Lori?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on the general budget?
That's it, thank you.
So just, rolling through the couple changes for general from, this would be our second viewing of general. I just wanna note that you're gonna see that unassigned prior year fund balance come down. That's as we're working back through numbers. That's the savings on our revenues from expenses last year in general. So that number is different than what you had saw from your previous version. I did input in the expenditures, the $4,800 for the judge, because that was approved for the, his annual wage for next year. I wanted to note under, general office operations, that there were a couple additions there. You'll see an archive system that HeyGov for online forms and strategic planning. The archive system is, we recently heard a presentation about, with our social media accounts, how it would consistently archive anything that happened on social media. And we'd like to explore that further next year, if there would be a request for open records that would include social media. The system would take consistent screenshots and be able to provide that for us. So let's say somebody posts a comment, they decide to take the comment down, that system would be archiving their comment, so if someone would ask for the public record request, we would be able to give them that comment. We can control that with our own comments, we can't control that with comments that come onto any of our social media sites from someone else.
So that would only apply to social media emanating from here.
Social media on our pages, yes. Yep. So we'd like to explore that further, so I included it in the budget in case we would proceed with such a system. The HAGA for the online form, we've been discussing that with the camping permits. So HAGov is a cooperation with our town web. They partner to do, so you could fill in online forms and pay at the same time. So I included that as a, accepting that HAGov. That's the lowest that they would go, so if we wanted additional forms added in the future, if it would be successful, that would probably be an increased cost for next year. And then I did put in for a strategic planning update. Because of indefinitely tabling the sewer system, that was kind of one of the really big goals from our previous strategic plan. So we would put forth going through a strategic planning effort next year to update our plan.
Where did you put the survey?
The survey is gonna be on the last page under other general government. You'll see that 3520 for the townwide survey and mailing.
Thank you.
Additionally, under general capital outlay, you're gonna see that a decrease next year for the community room and lighting upgrade to the 50,000 that we talked. We're hoping that we could get that floor in before the end of the year. I would ask if we wouldn't be able to get the floor completed before we could bill that back to this year, because we had that in this year's budget, that we be able to carry that forward. So we would be able to bill back until the middle part of February, and I'm hoping we have it done by that point in time. Some of that will depend on the contractor's scheduling, but if it would happen after that, if we could carry that forward for expenditure in 2023.
And what is the other again, did you say? For 18?
Other is simply that, just if there would be other things that would come up as general capital expenditures that we would need to handle next year. I would note, so you also have then, after the more detailed sheets, you have the workhorse. You'll see that on these sheets, because we're getting close, you'll have your 2023 budgets in these columns, which then populates your percentage change. So you had those for all of the budgets tonight, and I included in the packet your entire budget with the 2023. Is there additional questions or concerns on general?
Well, I remember last time, I think we had mentioned something. It's been several years since we had reviewed the salaries for the chair and the supervisors. But then Chairman Hasdall shared that you had had this survey from the WTA, and I was gonna bring something up about proposing a small increase in those, but looking at where we are compared to the majority, the averages in what I think are similar sized counties to ours, we're at or above. So I'm not going to bring forward an idea of changing that unless somebody else would like to.
And you will see on the town meeting and budget presentation that the determination of salaries for the chairperson and the, 2 supervisors that would come in April will be on that. So we will ask for a motion the night of the town meeting to set those salaries. And we've had where citizens have done increases, I mean, where they've proposed that, but it would be then set for the chairperson and 2 of the supervisory positions, if it would at all be different. It wouldn't be for all 5.
I think in light of the fact too that we now get per diems, which approximately 6 years ago, that wasn't the case. So that's an additional plus to the wages that we get. That's for the meetings we attend, so I couldn't see doing that, but
Do we feel good about general?
the only question I do have yet, Jamie, is under general office operations on page 1 for STR inspections. You have budgeted 6,000, where in the past you had 4. You don't have a projected year end yet, or what you had spent as of July 1st. This is for outside of what the fire inspectors have to do.
That is the building inspection with Dan Hansen, so it's really a pass-through. So Dan Hansen charges us $80 for a building inspection of every short-term rental.
So wouldn't that go under the building inspector?
No, because short-term rental licensing is done through the clerk's office, so the income for that's coming under your licenses, liquor operation in your general fund, that's where it's
Okay.
being deposited. And then the expense comes out of general office operations for that building inspection.
Okay, I see, thank you.
Any other questions on general? Moving on, room water.
We'll mark that one off the list. And next on the list is Rome Water Utility. I'm not sure if Chad and Robbie, or just Robbie, wanna come up? Do you wanna maybe come up and? Rock, paper, scissors. Do you wanna sit, Robbie, or do you wanna use the mic? Okay. Yep. So included in the packet from the.
Personally, I'm sorry.
That's okay, it's nice to meet you.
Okay. Included in the packet from the water utility was a memo regarding 2023 compensation, the proposed budget, their capital additions and their debt obligations, and then a pie chart of those expenses. I would just note, there's no levy in water utility. It's essentially an enterprise fund that's operated through the town. So their user fees have to cover their expenses. There's no levy in the water utility.
Just for my own personal information, what does it mean when you say pull well number 3? What does it mean to pull a well? You're getting rid of it or replacing it?
Good luck, Jeff.
Should probably say rehab well number.
Rehab, okay.
Just wanna press the
Total
button in
rehab.
case it's not on. Thank you. Why don't you share a little bit more what that means when you say rehab? What do you?
Pull the well.
You pull it out and you put a new
Pull it
one in.
out, you rehab the well,
Okay.
it could be air bursting, it could be just chlorination, clean the screens down below, televise it, and then put it back in the ground.
Obviously something that needs to be done periodically.
Yeah, it was done 10 years ago, so every 10 years, you should really kind of pull a well before something falls apart, and then it'll cost you 10 times more to pull it out.
Is it required by the DNR that it
It's
is-
required, they don't really have a date set, they prefer 5 to 7 years, but because we have the alternating wells, we don't use them as much as bigger cities do, so we pull them every 10, unless something's going wrong.
Thank you.
Got a question on the 2022 budget. We had miscellaneous revenues and late fees at 36,000. Historically, it's been under 10. I don't remember seeing that last year, but we're at 14%. What was driving that number so high? And it's not, I don't see it reflected in the 2023 budget.
In the 2022 budget right now?
Yes.
He's probably taking it off this column right here.
Oh, okay. So the late fee revenue,
Yeah.
right now, we're at 4,000,
Yes.
and the budget is gonna be at 12,000. We've been budgeting 12,000 every year since I've come here.
Okay. Well, the sheet I've got here is 36,000 budget. The typo?
Which sheet do you have? What?
Yeah,
This is the one that actually is for tonight's meeting.
Oh, he's looking at,
the packet.
This is, yeah, this is from tonight's packet.
Because I don't have 12.
12 would make sense, but 36 is out.
I would have to look into that for you.
All right, and then further down on transportation expense, we have $89,000 in the budget.
On that line, that is where we increased to pay for the new truck that we
Okay.
purchased.
All right, so under transportation,
Yes.
okay.
but miscellaneous late fees, oh, you're at 7. No,
No, so the
you're
budget
at-
was at 36,
and you're at 31.
and we're at 30,
No, you're under by 31. You're
by 31.
missing by 31.
I have to figure out why that budget's so high.
Wouldn't transportation,
There must be something else in there, cause that's the miscellaneous I gotta look into for you.
wouldn't a purchase of a vehicle be like a capital expense or capital outlay?
It is, eventually we'll run through that when we
I see,
complete our end of year processing.
I see.
But for right now, we had to move the funds in order to accommodate the costs for it.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Auditor will make that change, right?
Yes, that is correct.
What is the tax, well, you still have taxes to town there, and that's the payment in lieu of,
Payment in lieu, correct.
right? And then you have taxes to town, Tri-Lake / other.
That's the Tri-Lake payment that we have to pay every year. It's,
Wow.
it's a
You pay Tri-Lakes too?
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we've had to pay
216 for
Tri-Lakes ever since
three-
I started.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's 3 parcels that we pay for, 3 payments that add up to 216 every year.
oh, so like that one we're selling tonight, that's because of that?
No, it's
Oh.
some,
Well 2,
well, 3.
well 3, and that, I believe, yeah, well 1.
Well, 1. It's
I don't
well
think
one.
we do pay Tri-Lakes on that flag lot off of Norwich. I don't think we pay Tri-Lakes for
Huh.
that one.
Must just be
Okay.
the parcel
No.
charge then, it's not the
I think
assessment
so.
charge.
Correct.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the Rome Water Utility? Looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tax increment.
So the tax increment district, or TID, you'll notice that on that sheet, both your revenues and expenditures are on the same page. I didn't do revenues and expenditures, it's a small budget. There are 2 items that are highlighted yellow. That's because as the separate taxing entities come in with what their tax rates will be, that number adjusts. But at this moment, with the information that we have, we believe that the increment will be around that 1.3 million. And then at this moment, because there aren't any additional expenditures that could happen within the TID, it's really just subtracting off our administrative costs and the loans, and that's the difference goes back in the payment to Sand Valley, who is the entity within the TID. So That's per our developer's agreement until that number would be paid off, that increment would be paid off, that they paid us when the tax base wasn't enough to cover the loan. Then that will be held within the TID account until those loans come due to be paid. We can't pay those loans early. I think the first one can be done in 2024 and the second one in 2027, which is when we expect to close the TID now. So I highlighted those in yellow because again, they will adjust as the final tax entities come in. On the 17th, when we do budget, we'll have those numbers from the other taxing entities and that will be final. But this one, again, is really this is an in and out account depending on that tax rate.
Any questions on the TID? Very well, moving on to tourism.
So on tourism, you'll see that, again, on revenues and expenditures, we do divide this on the 70-30. So 70 of our room tax goes to Visit Rome, our destination marketing organization, and 30 stays with the town. We do get estimates from Visit Rome on where they expect to see the room tax for next year. So these numbers are based off of estimates with our DMO. So we do expect to bring in about $931,000 total, and then you can see the divide there between the 70-30 for room tax. On the expenditures, I would just note, you see the 70 that goes to Visit Rome, on the 30 that stays here with the town. $30,000 is in your parks budget for expenditures, mainly right now with the development of Rome Town Center Park. But I did put another big chunk in there for the development of the Timberline Parkway extension. So if we do want to get that road completed within Rome Town Center in order to sell our additional lots, we have to complete some engineering costs. We also would extend the water line. We would work with We Energies to extend the gas line, and then obviously the base and the paving of that road. I don't know that 245 would get us that entire road, but it would allow us to start that completion of Rome Town Center Park and open up those lots for sale. Now we do have a first offer to purchase with Monroe Prairie ATV Club for a piece of that land. That sale will only be finalized once the road is built, because you can't sell lots without at least 70 foot of frontage, which the lot that they would like doesn't have at this moment in time. So we have interest in those lots, but we can't sell them until they would have road frontage access.
And you're budgeting again, how much for that whole Timberline expansion portion?
At this moment, it would be the $245,010. Is Chad still here? No. We do have estimates to run the water line and take it all the way out to 13th. That's about $58,000 at this moment. So, and then the engineering cost, we would work with general engineering, because we do have to ensure that however that road is built, that the water flow would come off of that road. You may have noticed in the other Rome Town Center maps that there's like a stormwater basin that's in there. I don't think it would be that large for that road construction. It probably would be more swale in actual practice, but that's why we would need the engineering done.
What was Visit Rome's justification back up for the 43% increase in revenues? You know?
Additional properties that would come online next year. Obviously, Sand Valley is our largest contributor to room tax. We do have short-term rentals, but they have over 100 rooms there on site. And they expect with Lido and with Sedge Valley, those additional properties, and those are more expensive properties to rent.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions on tourism? I think we're complete.
Okay, I did also distribute this evening an updated police. I just wanted to share an updated police, because as we cycle through expenditures and insurance, things slightly adjust. We do have in the prior year police revenue, that's a slight increase in what we would bring forward to next year to help offset our cost in capital expenditures. It didn't change the levy amount that is reflected on your tax levy, but I just wanted to note it because it is an increase in that prior year revenue amount. So, and that's just as we always go through the budget and some items change and adjust and increase, we wanted to take a little bit more forward in prior year, which police will have at the close of this year. So it's not a concern of taking that prior year ahead.
What is the status of our enrollment as far as the health insurance? Has that been completed? Have you seen an increase?
I have not seen an increase, more people taking it than took it last year. No. We've been pretty, I mean, obviously there has been enrollment changes, but it's not a increase in the number of people taking insurance. Open enrollment actually ends tomorrow, so
That's what I asked.
hopefully all enrollment items are in and submitted. So then the last item again that I just had in the back of the packet was the tax levy number. You can see that this sheet is updated with the 70-30 tourism numbers that we just also shared, but just shows that balance of the $3,631,000. If we would be comfortable after tonight, what would happen next steps is we would finalize the budget in brief document that needs to be printed as a Class 2 notice in the newspaper, that we would be holding our budget meeting on November 17th with the breakdown of expenditures in the budget and revenues in the budget, along with our general agenda items, approval of the minutes, approval of the wages for supervisors that would be up for election, our contributions to charitable groups, and then we would have the items that we're considering tonight as far as that sale of property would also be on that agenda, if approved tonight. But that would be our next step. And then following the meeting on the 17th, provided there would be electoral approval that evening, my understanding is it's a Thursday night Packer game, so we should be flooded with people. We would have our board meeting immediately following, and the town board then would make their motion to accept budget, and we would be through 2023 budget.
Everybody good with that? Yeah?
Wasn't there an increase that was built into that contract?
Not next year, the year after. Our third year, we have forgive me, Supervisor Goldman, I forget if it's a 2 or a 3, but it's not next year.
It was a 3, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
And then we would be looking to negotiate again, and we wanted to negotiate as our larger group in Adams County.
Okay, next agenda items, if needed, not needed.
Yep, there wouldn't be next agendas. I just, again, included on there that the town annual meeting and budget presentation Thursday, November 17th, 6 p.m., which is a later start time for us, and then we would have our town board meeting immediately following that meeting.
What time's that game start? 8?
I don't know.
7:15.
7:20.
Okay.
Yeah, Robbie, 7:20. I will practice with the staff on pace for that evening.
I put a timer and a timer.
All right. So we need a motion, I guess, for adjournment here, then, right?
Yep.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Everybody did a great job in this year. I mean, I've seen other budgets going through the years, and they've had issues, especially when times were tough, but I think we were a little lucky too with the way things turned out this year, but everybody did a good job. So, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.